which UGA football players are going to go to the NFL, which ones are going to go to the NFL draft. I think it's not going to be like 2 years ago where, or even last year. We'll see how many players get drafted, but think about the last two NFL drafts where Georgia had 15 and then 10 guys go. And you had all those first rounders. It's the reason why they won national championships, guys. It's because of there's a lot of reasons, but one of the reasons is how much talent that the team had, and that shows in the NFL. That shows in the NFL because they're doing it as a profession. It's college football can be more exciting football. NFL is better football, obviously, when we're talking about professional football players. That was a weird tangent. Brock Bowers, Smile Monded, right? I think that there are a few guys that we are not sure about Brock Bowers to go in the NFL. All right, we're talking about a top 10 pick. I don't know how much time we should spend talking about that because I think that's definitely going to happen. But man, there's some guys that I'm a little bit torn on if they're going, and there's some that I'm pretty sure, and then there's some that I've changed my mind about over the last few weeks. So let's get into it. Ryan Curley from Dawg Post here, talking about the NFL draft. You guys know I love to talk about the NFL, and I like to talk about the NFL draft. One of my favorite things is just the draft itself, and Georgia gets a lot of players into it. So I think Brock Bowers is a lock to go. I think it would be a borderline ridiculous for him to come back to Georgia. Let's be honest. And in turn, some of these, if not all of these players, are probably not going to play in the Orange Bowl. So let's marinate with that. If marinate with the fact that if one of these guys is your favorite player, you probably watched him in the red and black for the last time. I would guess that there are going to be at least a handful of players that don't play in the Orange Bowl, that don't suit up just because of being preventative with injuries. So Bowers, I think, is gone. I think Ladd McConkey's gone too, guys. I mean, this is an NFL receiver, and I just look. I've been torn on sitting out of bowl games. What's the right thing to do? It would be my suggestion to Ladd McConkey not to play in the Orange Bowl. I just would tell him not to. The guy's been dealing with injuries all year. He's dealt with injuries for a lot of his career, and he has plenty of tape. Like, people know that this guy is an NFL receiver. He needs to get healthy and train. So that's my opinion with Ladd McConkey. I know that some of you guys aren't going to like that, the fact that I would suggest to him that he should not play in the Orange Bowl. It's just what it is. I would suggest the same thing to Brock Bowers. I mean, they were out there limping against Alabama. And I know that the Orange Bowl is, 27 days from today? Today's the 26th. Today is the 4th. So that this is, you may have not watched this on the 4th, but this is the 4th, and this video is going out on the 4th. Bowers and Ladd McConkey they're just not healthy. And, an Orange Bowl does mean a lot, but it's not a college football playoff. So I can totally see them sitting out. Let's get to some less obvious ones, or, we'll go down the list from obvious to less obvious. I think Amarius Mims will be going. You guys have seen the guy. He's 6'7". He's over 300 pounds, and he can run almost 20 miles per hour. And he's a very good tackle, and he's going to go in the NFL draft. I think he'll probably end up being a first-round pick just because he's going to test out like a lunatic. He's going to test out like crazy. This guy's numbers at the Combine are going to be unreal, or Pro Day, or whatever it is that Amarius Mims ends up doing. It's going to be impressive from a numbers standpoint for the NFL. So I would imagine Amarius Mims is gone. To me, that is the third most obvious out of just people I think are going to the NFL. So maybe the second after Bowers. So then you get down, Cedric Van Pran, you're gone. Cedric Van Pran is an NFL offensive lineman. Could have left, right? He decided to come back with unfinished business, and they didn't get it done for Cedric. So I didn't even think about Cedric. I'm sure he's having a hard time with the whole thing, as most of the people watching this video are. This is not what we were all expecting. It's not what I expected to happen. I thought Georgia. I thought you want a real tangent, real quick, a tiny one. I thought Georgia was going to win the whole thing. I think if Georgia was in the playoff, they'd win the whole thing. That's all I'll say about that. I think Kamari Lassiter's gone. Right? He's not a senior, but he's a good corner. I think he can get drafted. I don't really know where he'll get drafted. I think that he would be in the I don't know, is he a middle round pick? Right, I'd have to do some more evaluation of that and more digging to see kind of where I think Kamari Lassiter is going to end up. But Javon Bullard, he'll be gone. I'm just kind of going through this list. This is a little bit scrambled, so appreciate you guys sticking with me. On the defensive line, you're going to get older guys go. How many are going to get drafted? I don't know. Zion Logue, I would imagine, is gone. I don't know if he's I think he's probably exhausted his eligibility, right? So you've got guys like that. So something I'm torn about are the middle linebackers, Smile London and Jamon Davis-Johnson. Just because I think they played worse this year. But that doesn't necessarily matter for their NFL draft stock as much. And Smile London is going to test really high just because he's kind of a freak athletically. So everyone assumes Smile London will be a higher draft pick than Jamon Davis-Johnson. Would Georgia nudge them to go? I don't think Georgia does that necessarily. I think you would encourage really, really good football players to come back if you want to. Just as, look, I think Ohio State nudged Kyle McCord to hit the transfer portal. That would be my guess. I mean, that's a weird... I agree with what Aaron Murray tweeted about Kyle McCord leaving Ohio State. You don't just walk away from the starting quarterback job at Ohio State. So something weird's going on there, or maybe the two sides just decided we're gonna split this up. Some other players, Kendall Milton, I think is an NFL running back. I think Daijun Edwards is gone. I think a lot of the offensive line could go outside of Mims and Cedric Van Pran. Could Tate Ratledge go? I don't know. I think that he's an NFL guard, probably. Truss could go. I don't know how he's gonna fare in the draft, but I think he's gone. Dominic Lovett is one I'm unsure about. I'm unsure about some of these receivers, to be honest with you, in terms of Dominic Lovett, Marcus Rosemary-Jack Saint, and Ra-Ra. I would imagine Ra-Ra is going to come back. But Dominic Lovett is an interesting one. Because I think this is a guy that definitely has enough tape, had enough numbers. I think he showed enough to be able to maybe test himself into being an NFL draft pick. But maybe if you're Dominic Lovett, it makes more sense to come back and possibly be Carson Beck's number one receiver. And that gets to the real conversation. What's Carson Beck going to do? I think he's going to come back. If you asked me a month ago, I would have told you I think he's going to leave. And I can tell you it definitely wasn't Carson's plan. Once it got to this situation where he knew he was going to have to wait his turn and do that whole thing, I can tell you right now, Carson wasn't expecting to stay for more than 1 year. I think it's going to happen, though. And look, if you're Carson Beck, that's not the end of the world, man. I mean, you're talking about coming back. You're going to make a ton of money through NIL. You're going to be a Heisman contender. You're going to be on one of the best teams in the country. And you're going to have a chance to boost your draft stock to being a high-level pick and being, he could totally be a first-round pick in 25. I mean, that's what's on the table for Carson Beck. I would imagine he's gone. Just didn't play well enough in these last couple of games to, propel himself out of here. That's kind of what I would say about that. It's no hate towards Carson. So I think that this Georgia team is going to lose a lot of talent. And it does every year. It does every year, and they lock and load, and that's how it is. But we're talking about Van Pran, Lassiter, Javon Bullard, the linebackers, Bowers, Lab McConkey, a couple of the other offensive line. That's what we're talking about in terms of, who's going to the NFL draft. So it's going to be a lot of players. It's going to be a lot of players. How many are going to get drafted? Let's guess. It's not going to be quite 10, is what I'd say. It won't be quite 10. I would venture to guess that Georgia doesn't have as many players drafted this year as it did the previous two. And I think that's kind of obvious at this point. But those are some of the players that are going to the NFL. And, I think there are a few I'm torn about. Daijun Edwards, I guess, could come back. I think Kendall Milton is probably an NFL running back. Daijun Edwards with the build and the different skill set. I could see him maybe want to come back and just say, hey, man, I want to do a fifth year at Georgia. I want to be here for another year. I want to be, a lead back again. Next year it's going to be Branson Robinson, Roderick Robinson. You got a couple running backs coming in that I think have a chance to be really good. in terms of Nate Frazier and Dwight Phillips Jr. I think they both have a chance to be really good at Georgia. At least that's what it seems like. And that's what it is for every really high-level running back recruit that goes to Georgia. You do have a chance to be really good. But just from what I know about them in this recruiting process, I do think that those are talented running backs, and they should make an impact at some point in time. So we'll see there. But I think for sure Kendall Milton, I mean, he just looked really good once he got healthy. I mean, he just looked legit, and that's kind of how it is. So, Bowers is the obvious one, but after that, it's not as obvious. But Georgia's going to lose some talent to the NFL draft. That's the end point here. Thanks for watching.